Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. Was not planning to really do a stream tonight, but things happen, life happens, and when a news event happens of major proportions, one must do a live stream, and so I decided to do one when I found out when I woke up this evening because I work graveyard shift, and apparently while I was taking my beauty nap during the daytime, um, Joe Biden decided that he's not going to accept the nomination as the Democratic nominee for president for the year 2024, and that he's just going to serve the rest of his term till January. That's what he's planning to do. And y'all know that by now. Some people might think that he's like stepping down totally 100%, and that's not the case. He's serving until January. He'll be basically a one-term president. And I got a few things to say about that in itself. And so right now, as it looks, and it's still a little too early to tell, it looks like maybe Kamala Harris is the presumptive nominee for the Democratic nomination to take on Donald Trump in November. But that's not 100% sealed as of yet because there's complications. As I was saying the other day, possible replacements for Joe Biden. The convention is going to be wild. The convention is going to be very wild. You can imagine. And I'm sure they're going to find a way to make sure it's in Chicago. And wow, for something like this to happen in Chicago, and all kinds of stuff going on. So, right now, let's see, Joever. I'll pass out by the time you come on. Have a great show. I'll catch the replay tomorrow. Hey, Warren, I'll be sure to watch your live stream tomorrow morning. Shout out to Warren's program, Morning Extra, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. Talk about Catherine. So, all right. Yeah. Catherine may be on our show here in the next few days, folks. So that's what we're talking about. Let's see. Hey, everyone. Happy Sunday, says Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. So, and around the world with D and friends, how are you today? Let's see here. Great intro soundtrack. Thank you. I try to keep the music happening. And let's see. Do we have any audio issues? Let's see. Do we have any audio issues? I'm trying to see what time was this thing taking place. Audio. I hope we don't have any audio issues. Let me see what we got here. Okay. Okay, audio's okay. Good. All right. So, anyhow, yeah, Joe Biden is stepping down. As of right of this moment, it looks like Kamala Harris is the nominee. And there are some complications. It's not going to be smooth sailing under any circumstances. So there is a likability factor with Kamala Harris. And she'll be facing Donald Trump. And if it's not her, it'll be somebody else, obviously. So she's facing Donald Trump in for November. And she's been wanting to do this for a long time, and we'll see how things go. But I'm gonna tell you, I was watching the news today, and somebody says that the Republican Party is united this year like they have never ever been united. They have not been disunited since George W. Bush nomination in 2004, when the Republican Party, um, you know, probably one of the most worst election cycles in my lifetime, was 2004. And it was, what happened in that election cycle. I mean, it was when the Republicans just basically lied to the American people, culture war, scaring people with the neocon bullshit, and you know, and just increase seats in the House and the Senate and gubernatorialships, and the country just got into the darker plunges of the neoconservative far right and fundamentalist Christianity. So that's what happened as a result of the 2004 election. And if Donald Trump starts listening too much to the neocons, I would hate to see a repeat of this crap. So, and I personally think that Kamala Harris is a very, very weak candidate. And the only thing that's going to save her campaign, if it can be saved, would be somebody on the ticket that can actually strengthen the ticket. Somebody a running mate that can strengthen the ticket, and that's going to be a mystery. Granted, if she is the nominee for president for the Democratic Party, so there's going to, I think there's probably, I'm predicting a power grab and a civil war inside the Democratic Party right now. That is what I'm predicting. So, and the thing about it is with Joe Biden, what can I say about him? The thing about Joe Biden is that, I mean, how humiliating it is for him. I mean, he is, the thing about Joe Biden is he knew that he knew what he was getting himself into with his age and everything, and what he needed to do if he was going to run. And of course, I wasn't for him. I didn't vote for him. I'm glad I didn't. But I every election cycle will do what I normally do. I vote third party. But what I'm saying is that if he was going to walk into this, he needed to do it in a way to where he will have some dignity. And the thing he needed to do was to come in there and say, hey, I know, after he got sworn in, he needed to say, hey, I'm going to be probably a one-term president, and I'm going to do what I can for the American people. And I don't expect him to be a radical leftist or Bernie Sanders adjacent, but he could have done some ideas or followed some suggestions of Bernie instead of being, Joe Manchin, or being just another shitty corporate Democrat, just being another shitty corporate politician, centrist type, which that's what he ended up being, But, to hear it from people, he is the most far left Democrat we've had in decades, on economics, he's the most far left Democrat we've had since Roosevelt and Johnson. To hear some people say this, and and I'm looking at his policies that could, had Build Back Better taken place, you might be able to say, hey, yeah, that there might have some teeth to it, but there was no Build Back Better. There was no labor law reforms. Okay. National Labor Relations Board is probably the only area where there might have been some mild improvement. They were a little more labor friendly than they have been in decades. But when the organized labor, when the unionized workforce is at 12% or 10% or 11%, and it goes up by 1%, only a piece of shit like Elon Musk would think that's a nightmare. Anybody else would be like, That's a drop of pea in the ocean. 1%. You know, if 11% of the workforce would have ended up being 29%, I'm just pulling a number like that. It's still too low, but it's enough to make a meaningful difference. It could have been raised up to 19% or 22% or something like that. That would have made a difference, you know. And I'm glad that the couple of Starbucks employees have a union now. I really am, but it needed to, and it needed to be much further than this. I mean, and maybe if he pushed a little harder, you would have had a more robust labor movement. And I just didn't see it. Maybe tiny little half-ass measure. There was no $15 hour minimum wage, which that would have been something. If he would have just done $15 an hour, that would have been an achievement, or lower the age eligibility. If you couldn't do Medicare for all, lower the age eligibility to 60, like he promised. He's not even trying to do a public option. He's not doing anything. And where are these far left policy initiatives that Biden? Yes, thank you. Biden signed a bill to block rail workers from striking. So yes, so where the fuck is all these bold progressive initiatives that people claimed as being pushed forward by the Biden agenda? I don't see it. An infrastructure bill, that a watered down infrastructure bill here and there, that's business as usual. So I'm not impressed with his performance, really. The one good thing he did foreign policy was to pull us out of Afghanistan. I don't care if there were equipment left in Afghanistan. I don't care how sloppy it was. It would have been sloppy under any president leaving. All the people, even some of the American first people who claim to be anti-war on the Trump side, saying, they claim to be anti-war, bring our troops home. And he tried doing that with Afghanistan. And this is not a defense. I actually have some criticism to say about Trump here on Afghanistan. I mean, after the pull out from Afghanistan. However, the pulling out, after the pulling out of Afghanistan, what happened? We're in a confrontation with Russia through NATO with this Ukraine Russian conflict, and we're over there in the Pacific off the coast of China, basically, being hawkish toward China. I mean, I favor harsh protectionist measures on China, just as I would any other country, to protect our American workers. And that's nothing against China, but I'm not for starting a war with China or any other country. See, this is how ass backwards our foreign policy is. We'll go and deal with trade. We'll trade with countries that are taking advantage of us, and be hawkish with people that we shouldn't even be hawkish with, and then we'll sanction the hell out of countries that really don't do anything to us. And like, for example, the sanctions in Iran, was stupid. They, any terrorism that they commit is very minimal compared to what Saudi Arabia, and the genocide they caused to the people in Yemen, comparable to what Israel's doing in Gaza and everything. So it's just kind of like with regard to Biden, where he gets thumbs up for leaving Afghanistan. It's like, well, fuck him for what he's done for getting us into the cusp of World War III over there with this situation in Russia, Ukraine. And I think it has more to do with that. I think it has to do with defense contractors wanting to keep the defense industries and profits going. I think it has to do with Hillary Clinton losing the election in 2016 and wanting to vilify Vladimir Putin. I think it has a lot to do with Hunter Biden's laptop and his situation when Hunter Biden was in the Ukraine himself years and years ago. I think it's all kinds of issues that's involved, and we do not need to be involved. In fact, every time Zelensky gets a little bit moderate and they want to go and negotiate with Russia, something happens where he gets pulled back. Now, I'm no fan of Zelensky, but that I've noticed that's happening quite a bit too. So yeah, I have no respect for Joe Biden. He voted for the Iraq War. That's something that we should never forgive him for. The language behind the Patriot Act, which is still the law of the land. That's still the law of the land. He's responsible for a lot of the language and the authoring of the Patriot Act. Has been an attack on our civil liberties, and we have become more and more of a garrison state since 9/11. And each and every president finds new ways to become totalitarian. They don't put any emphasis on civil liberties anymore. I remember there was a time when the U.S. would do stupid things to impose on the American population, and the courts would say this is bullshit, and they'll back off. But they will never do that now these days. These days, they just double down. And, the closest thing is the mounting pressure against Biden's Disinformation Governance Board, which I can guarantee you the Republicans who are self-righteous about it, they were right to be self-righteous about it. I joined with them at that time. But had that Disinformation Governance Board be around by the time Trump or someone like Ron DeSantis or any given Republican, Nikki Haley, be the president, you think that they would get rid of this Disinformation Governance Board? Absolutely not. They will use it, and they will use it to silence people like us even more. So I am glad that for at least a short moment, for whatever the partisan reasons they wanted to do this, to go ahead and to put a stop to the Disinformation Governance Board. Thank you, Catherine. Yes, never forget the ominous crime bill that took place in 1994 that added 50 crimes, death penalty, 50 crimes warranted by the death penalty, that put a lot of African-American males in prison for bullshit reasons. This is all Joe Biden. And remember, even before he became president, going back to his early days as a U.S. Senator, he was not the kind of segregationist like Lester Maddox or George Wallace. He wasn't that harsh, but he was a segregationist nonetheless. And he referred to the public schools as concrete jungles, referring to Black people, why he was opposed to busing. And did he evolve? Maybe. People do stupid things when they're younger, and maybe he did, and maybe he didn't. I don't know. But the point is, he does have a veneer racism from his past. And so, there are racist things that you can equate Donald Trump with. And when Donald Trump bootlickers say, "Oh, Donald Trump is not a racist at all. There's not a racist bone in his body." Donald Trump's done some racist shit in his time. Now, it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump. Are they Nick Fuentes? Are they David Duke? Are they, are they Unite the Right? Are they the kind of people, Richard Spencer types, whatever? Neither of them are. But they both have some bigoted ideas and bigoted views of the world. And that's the thing right there. He's a multimillionaire, and Trump is a billionaire. So why would I want to vote for a bigoted billionaire or a bigoted billionaire, whether they're still bigots or not? So that's another thing to talk about right there. Another point, but here's the thing: he's gone. As far as serving another term, it's over for him, and for that, I'm glad. I'm sick of Joe Biden, but I'm going to be sick of. I probably will. It looks like we're going to get used to getting sick of of Donald Trump, and so let's talk Bernie. Let's talk AOC for a moment, because I have a bone to pick with these two. Their retarded level of loyalty to Joe Biden. Bernie, his good friend Joe Biden. For the umpteenth time, Joe Biden is not my good friend. I know why Bernie says that, for multiple reasons, and his silly empathy is why he stepped down quickly. I know when he was dealing with Hillary Clinton, it was easy to hate on Hillary Clinton. And maybe on a personal level, Joe Biden is less hateful than Hillary Clinton. But just like Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton is a piece of shit too. But the thing is that she's personally not likable, whereas maybe Joe Biden might be an okay person. Apparently, when Joe Biden was a U.S. senator, people liked him on a personal level. They found him charming. Go figure. But he's been very loyal to Joe Biden. So has AOC, and I think I know the reason why. Neither of them want to be blamed for the second for Trump winning in November, which is likely to happen. That is why they figure loyalty will mean that people will respect them for their loyalty. Well, I got news for Bernie, and I got news from AOC. While it is true, people in my community here and our audience here, we're pissed off with Bernie and we're pissed off with AOC, and we have all the reasons in the world to be pissed off with them. On the other hand, the people, the corporate Democrats and the leadership and the establishments, they're mad at AOC and Bernie. And there's nothing that there's no amount of boot licking and ass kissing that AOC and Bernie Sanders can do that's going to get them to like them. They're going to be blamed that the Democratic Party is too far left. It isn't. It is not too far left. The Democratic Party is very conservative. The Democratic Party is where progressive ideas, left-wing ideas die. Can't even get a fucking Medicare for all package done even on the statewide level, let alone nationally. And people tell me the Democratic Party has went so far to the left. No such a thing. No such a thing. And I just get tired of hearing about how far left the Democratic Party is. It isn't, I promise. Chris Hedges says you stick the Democratic Party in any country in Europe, they'd be equivalent to any conservative party over there. In fact, I'm going to add maybe even to the right, because a lot of those conservative parties are cool with the national healthcare system. At least most people in those conservative parties. Yeah, you might have some cranks in those conservative parties that they are like Democrats and Republicans here that don't like universal health care. But the point is that it's pretty much accepted over there, whereas it isn't here. And so, their loyalty is not going to pay off. They're going to look at AOC and Bernie Sanders as troublemakers, and they're not going to be loved. They're going to be blamed, and they might as well just face the facts. And that's why they're loyal. And that's why we're critical of them, because we know what's going to happen to them. We know how the establishment feels about them. And deep down they know it too. They do. And it's just deeply frustrating because we put a lot of effort to make sure that there were more people like Bernie and AOC in the party. And once they reach a certain level, they wouldn't fight any longer. And so it's very frustrating. And it makes wanting to go into the third party movement even more. It makes the third party movement more appealing, more than ever. So let's go and talk about the elephant in the room, um, and that's Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is power hungry. Don't write her off. Don't write her out of the equation. She wants to go and be the nominee. Y'all take note, you observe her and see what she's going to be doing. She wants to go be the one to take down Donald Trump. But if they go and nominate Hillary Clinton, you want to know what's going to happen? You're going to guarantee that Donald Trump is going to win. Because the people, they're united. Those Republicans are fucking united like they haven't been in 20 some years. You add Hillary Clinton to the equation, you're going to probably take some of those moderate people that they don't like Trump and they're going to vote for anything but Trump, and they look at Hillary and they're going to be like, get that shit away from me. Donald Trump has softened some of his rhetoric. Whether it's true or not, whether he's had a change of heart or not, or what have you, we don't know. We don't know what's in the man's heart. He got shot at. He's been his rhetoric has been less dickish lately. He's kind of notched it down. And he talked about unity. Now, we're talking about Republicans and the term unity, whatever. We know that's bullshit. We know they're incapable of anything but trying to start some kind of a culture war. And I keep hearing people saying, well, the Republican Party's changed. And what did they have it? But Hillary Clinton, you put that monster as the Democratic nominee, that it's a done deal. Trump is president. I mean, I'm like not just 100% sure. I'm like 110% sure that Trump will be president because nobody likes Hillary. I don't understand the people who defend her to this day. I mean, I don't understand it at all. This woman, the Democratic Leadership Council, which was created in 1985. The Democratic Leadership Council, which was created in 1985. Yeah, Bill and Hillary Clinton did not create the Democratic Leadership Council, but they joined it and they took over the damn thing. And they took over it and they Reaganized the Democratic Party through the Democratic Leadership Council. They literally, from within, took the Democratic Party and fucking Reaganized the Democratic Party. So, what I want to do is I want to give you basically 10 good reasons why you should reject Hillary Clinton. And there are many more, I can promise you that. But one, she voted for the USA Patriot Act. And remember that. 2, she voted for the Iraq War. 3, getting back to my point about the Democratic Leadership Council. As a member of the Democratic Leadership Council, she helped pave way and strip the Democratic Party of its New Deal progressivism and replaced it with what I call Reaganization. 4, as the first lady during the Bill Clinton presidency, she was head of the National Healthcare Task Force to create a universal healthcare system. In doing so, she botched it up so badly with a confusing bureaucratic system which retained the worst aspect and part of our system, which is private health insurance companies, which needs to be eliminated. Instead of going for a universal single payer Medicare for all system, and that was why it was defeated. And because of the defeat of Hillary Care in 1994, healthcare has been even harder to become successfully implemented as policy. Unless we're talking about the Heritage Foundation version of it, which became Obamacare. We ended up getting a right-wing healthcare plan because of it. Number 5, in 2008, she invented the conspiracy theory about Barack Obama being a secret-born Kenyan Muslim who falsified his birth certificate to run for president. You remember that? It wasn't a bunch of Tea Party crazies that invented that conspiracy theory. It was her. And those dumbasses from the Tea Party don't even realize it. She destroyed Libya. Remember that. As Secretary of State, she was overseeing the destruction of Libya, the most successfully economic powerhouse on the African continent. And when I say that, I mean we're talking about universal health care. We're talking about universal basic income. We're talking about cities that were shining and just modernized societies. And Gaddafi, who was moderating in his foreign policy and getting friendly with the West, wanted to help the people of Africa, and he wanted to go and have a common currency for the African continent, which would have probably risen the standards of living overall in the entire continent. And the powers that be around the world do not like that. And so they went and they decided to put a stop to it. And Hillary Clinton played a major role in that happening. So, and now what is Libya is a failed state where slavery has returned. So we all grew up thinking that Muammar Gaddafi was this terrible person, and he was no angel, granted, but he was not as bad as people made him out to be. I have jokingly and seriously called him Africa's Tito. Number 7, she attempted to drone strike the Ecuador embassy in London to target Julian Assange. Always remember that. And number 8, she encouraged Donald Trump to run for president in 2016. And we can see how that turned out. The reason why we have to see Donald Trump's face every day on TV, along with hers, is because she and Bill Clinton encouraged him to run in 2016. And remember, she cheated against Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primaries in 2016 as well. Now, that was number 9. Number 10, her lies about the Russian interference in 2016 election helped pave way for the Russian-Ukraine conflict today. Not only did she McCarthy smear Donald Trump, she also McCarthy smeared Tulsi Gabbard, whatever we may think of her at this point, Jill Stein, and Bernie Sanders, claiming that every one of them are Russian assets. So, I absolutely despise Hillary Clinton. And as much as I don't like Joe Biden, I would rather stick with Joe Biden than to stick with Hillary Clinton. And that's where I stand on that. I die on that hill. I don't want to have to deal with Hillary Clinton again. So anyway, that's the news basically. Joe Biden stepping down, more